so nice again today. Yesterday was a bit windy, but today it's like spotless sky. This view never gets old to me. It's so beautiful. It's changing all the time. Now the snow is melting slowly and the colors become more and more like desaturated. First with the grass was very yellow, but it becomes a bit more grayish yellow right now. And it's not just the view, it's also the silence. You know, and the silence is not the absence of sound, but of static noise. You know, when I'm in the city, when I'm in Amsterdam, this is constant like. When I'm recording videos there, it's more difficult to get the sound right because the microphone has trouble picking up the details. You know, the silence here is like you hear every little. You hear the grass moving, sound in the trees when there's a little wind coming, and it's all around me. So, and it changes all the time, and it's very subtle. And the other sounds here are that there's a river coming down, the small stream coming down the mountains here, and then it continues as a river down towards the valley. So there's this constant little like, and depending on the wind that picks up, sometimes it's a bit more quiet. When it's very cloudy, you hear nothing. Like the other day, it was I was in the clouds, and it's like you're underneath a blanket. It's very subtle. It's very beautiful. You know, and it's so different. It gives sort of the headspace when you come here. When I come out of the car, when I've been into town, come out of the car, it's like, oh, it's always so nice. And that's part of the view. Is the sound. You know, I remember camping in the desert on my bike trips. You can just hear the smallest spider crawling underneath your tent or on your tent. You hear your heart beating in your throat. It's beautiful. It can be like tricky as well, but it's most of the time it's beautiful. Yeah. Can a view make you happy? I think it can. Like this view never gets old to me, and I'm looking forward to see it very slowly change. You know, through the weather, but also through the seasons when it's becoming more green again in a few months. It's really beautiful. just a temporary solution. I'm using so little water right now. I'm just draining out of the window. I don't have running water yet, so it's just for just washing hands. This is good. Hey. First bursts. Spring is coming. So finally that tarp is off. So I wanted to talk about the stones, how to get them off the roof and put them back on. If I read through the comments on chapter 9, which was about the crane, a lot of people were making suggestions of why don't you do it just like this? And I appreciate all the ideas and suggestions, and I want to go over a few of them. Because the reason why I choose a boom crane is because you have a lot of control over both vertical and horizontal movement. And in principle it's a very simple system. It's just one beam on a fulcrum and on a tripod. And the good thing is that you can lift up stones, you can rotate and then winch them down. So you have a lot of control, because the stones need to go off the roof and then be laid on the ground next to the roof, past the scaffolding. And if you have only vertical lifting, you're not there yet. A solution that would come close is a gantry crane, which is basically there's two poles and a vertical in between. There's a winch that could move, and the whole system could move over rails or on wheels. But in order to get the stones off the roof beyond the scaffolding, it would need to be such a big system, and the rail system needed to be built on a very uneven ground. The slope is quite steep and there's this little building next to it. It would be a very big thing to build, so therefore I think a boom crane is more suitable. People were mentioning log cabins, how they raise up the logs. to build the cabin. Usually what people build for that is also mostly vertical lifting on 4 specific points next to the walls, and usually logs are carried to the building using like a sort of a gliding system, or they're pulled in with a truck or a tractor. But again, the lifting is mostly vertical with some pushing and pulling to get the logs in place. It won't really work for here, because these stones are not only heavy, they're also oddly shaped and they have sharp edges, so they're difficult to work with. The reason why I want to have a crane for myself, which is built actually for the specific job, is because there's a lot of lifting to do. First this cabin, taking stones on and off. I might need to replace a beam, and also for the floor beams of that cabin need to be replaced. There's a bit more work on that cabin to do. So once I have a crane, I can use it for so many things. Also, there are some flat stones on the ground over there, very big and heavy ones, and I'm thinking of making a table like on the viewpoint there. Because how they did this back in the day, many people asked, is they'd have a lot of manual labor, but they would, for lifting the most heavy stones up, they used a thing called a paranco, which is basically a block and tackle in some shape or form. But once the stone was on the roof, they would move it around with 6-7 people. Like, there's a few very big ones. Usually the cornerstones are very heavy. There's one in the middle which is very big, and a lot of manual labor, but labor was cheap back in the day, you know. People were poor, and there were so many people living here in the mountains. They were all peasants and farmers, and they wanted to eat, so they were happy to help out. But a modern contractor nowadays, they would use a crane. They would do it with 2 or 3 people. Frozen to the rubber. Oh, there's the sun. Got a batch of recycled wood. This is all chestnut. These are going to be the verticals for the scaffolding. Got 40 of these. A few of them are still at the sawmill, together with 2 large planks, beams, which are for the crane. They are like 5 meters long and 6 by 25, so they're heavy beams. I don't know if we can get them up with a chimney. It's going to be quite tall. But these are nice. Got them for a good price, and I can use them for all sorts of things. Chestnut is the main building wood here in this area, like beams, ridge beams, rafters, they all use, and also window frames, door frames, they use chestnut for that, because it's a nice hard wood. It's very durable. It does split quickly, but but it's very durable. You can put it in the ground and it stays good for years. For outside, it's perfect. Yeah, and for the scaffolding, it's going to be great, and I can reuse it later for something else.
Table. Those two. Okay. 5 meter. 5 meter. Ciao Walter.
So the inside cabin is completely finished. I'm warm, I have a good place to sleep, I can cook, I can work, I got internet, got power. The internet, I got it as a mast on top of the hill, so I've got a hotspot here. And yeah, I've been living a bit more inside because it's been cold the past week, so also cooking I do inside now. And yeah, it's comfortable. You know, everything inside here is temporary. Probably until summer or a little bit after. It depends on how the building, the renovations on the actual cabin go. But I'm planning to take it apart again and put it somewhere here on the hill. I have to look into permission, but it's a very light build. No concrete foundation or anything. So as a temporary thing, whilst I'm working on the cabins, I think it should be fine, but I have to look into it. Yeah, it's so the look and feel is sort of Scandinavian, minimalistic. Looks a bit like a sauna. It's not going to be the style of the cabin. I'm not going to build an inner cabin permanently here in this one because I think it's a bit too small. And it's going to be much more dark woods and more traditional and more antique stuff, which I think is a better fit for this cabin. I built it like this because it's quick to build and it's quickly made sort of a comfortable space. It took me about 10 days to finish it, so I can really focus my time on working on the actual cabin. Yeah, it's a nice place to stay. I'm comfortable here. It's getting colder. It's actually snowed tonight, so next week I'm gonna focus on the crane and preparing the roof renovation. But it's gonna be quite a bit of snow, I think. The forecast is looking not too good, but it's still winter. Alright, thanks for watching. See you next week.